Tonight on Y News. Malacañang defends President Rodrigo Duterte's plan to allocate a huge fund for the capture of almost 2,000 released convicts. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara says not more than 10 freed convicts have surrendered after President Rodrigo Duterte gave a 15-day grace period yesterday. Legal experts believe that convicted criminals who benefited from the Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA should follow President Duterte's order to turn themselves in. Presidential spokesperson Panelo reveals that not only the family of convicted rapist killer Antonio Sanchez sought legal help from him, but also that of the Ampatuans. And former Bureau of Corrections Chief Nicanor Faldon left his office hours after President Duterte ordered him to step down. Good evening. Malacañang defends President Rodrigo Duterte's plan to allocate billions of pesos worth of funds for the capture of convicts released through Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA. Rosa Licos details why.
President Rodrigo Duterte urges less than 2,000 inmates sentenced for their commission of heinous crimes but released due to Good Conduct Time Allowance to surrender voluntarily. They have 15 days to report and register with the Bureau of Corrections or Bucor.
If you do not, then beginning at this hour, you are a fugitive from justice. And that you'll be treated as a criminal who is evading the law. And, well, you know, things can go wrong. If I were you, mag-surrender na kayo sa the nearest police or military detachment, wherever you are now.
If the convicts do not surrender, President Duterte plans to reward those who will be able to capture one, amounting to 1 million pesos. This converts to around 2 billion pesos for less than 2,000 released convicts. Presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo says despite the huge allocation, the move is for the security of the public.
What is more important is that the government is doing something to protect the threat against society with respect to these convicts who have been incarcerated by reason of their crimes deemed to be heinous. In other words, they become potential threats.
Meanwhile, about 10 heinous crime convicts released through GCTA have surrendered to authorities. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara says they will not name them yet for their protection. The Justice Department has given the Bureau of Immigration the complete list of 1,914 heinous crime convicts the authorities are running after.
The Department of Justice, which will issue the ILBO, the Immigration Lookout Bulletin Order, and that will be addressed to the Bureau of Immigration.
Secretary Guevara advises those who want to surrender voluntarily to coordinate with the nearest police station or military unit. Rosa Licos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
The Department of Justice presented today their basis for President Rodrigo Duterte's order to rearrest convicts who committed heinous crimes and released from prison through GCTA. According to Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, their basis is not law but jurisprudence, which forms part of the law of the land. Nel Marie Buhok reports why.
The Justice Secretary has referring to two Supreme Court decisions when he presented their basis for the President's order. First is the People v. Tan case in 1967, in which the court ordered the rearrest of released prisoner due to wrong application of Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA. Based on the SC ruling, the GCTA credited to detainee Fidel Tan was revoked. The Supreme Court said the Director of Prisons has the authority to credit prisoners with GCTA. Because of this, the Supreme Court ordered Tan's rearrest to continue his jail term for about 1.5 years. The court explained that the rearrest is not considered double jeopardy because it's merely the continuation of Tan's penalty. Neither is this to deprive him of liberty without due process of law. Another Supreme Court ruling is the case of a Manila City Jail warden versus Estrella et al. The SC also ordered the rearrest of detainees released due to, again, the wrong application of GCTA. In this case, the SC reversed the trial court's decision to free the detainees because it was only the city warden and not the director of prisons who gave the certification of good behavior.
And then they have to go to court, honestly, to have those orders of release revoked. Otherwise, anong basis ng police paghuli ng tao? Diba? Wala siyang arrest warrant.
Justice Secretary says they may go to court to rearrest the freed convicts or they may be declared as fugitives. President Duterte has earlier said the rearrest can be made without a warrant of arrest. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
For some legal experts, released convicts who have benefited from the good conduct time allowance must surrender first and comply with the president's order. This, although the president's move is questionable. Maya Bermudez will tell us why.
We asked legal experts what legal move is best for those released heinous crime convicts ordered to surrender to the government within a 15-day period. Here are their pieces of advice.
I would advise na sumuko ka kasi para you're not in danger, di ba? And you show na good conduct ka, consistent with good conduct. Pag nagsuko ka na, under the custody ka na, file ka ng habeas corpus. On the inapplicable sa yung bagong interpretation ng GCTA na ginagawa ng Department of Justice ngayon.
If really my client is a reformed man, so hindi na sa legal ko dadaanin. Kung talagang siya ay may good moral na, dahil doon naman siya nakabinipisyo, isa lang naman ang sinasabi ni Presidente kahapon eh. Hindi naman yung sinabi ikukulong ko muli.
But the question is the President's directive to call for their surrender has a legal basis?
Because he's not a judge. Only judges can order arrest of people, di ba? These people are not committing a crime right now, di ba? Di ba, you can only arrest people without a warrant in 3 occasions. Committing a crime, about to commit a crime, just committed a crime. None of that happened here.
Hindi na natin, may serious constitutional issue. Merong issue as to whether that may be legal or illegal. In fact, it is bordering on an illegal act. But then, how can you fight a government?
Maya Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Pasay City.
Philippine National Police will deploy a tracker team from the Criminal Investigation and Detection Group, or CIDG, to run after heinous crime convicts released through Good Conduct Time Allowance, or GCTA. Leah Ilagan reports.
We have an institutionalized tracker teams, and also we have yung tinatawag na Manhunt Bravo that goes after people who have standing warrants of arrest.
The PNP are now awaiting the end of the 15-day grace period President Rodrigo Duterte has given to release convicts before making any move. The tracker team is composed of CIDG personnel from their provincial and regional offices. PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde says they are waiting for a copy of the list of the released convicts' names from the Bureau of Corrections and the Justice Department.
Hopefully, makuha natin itong araw na yan, no? Kasi ang utos natin kay RDNCR as soon as possible. In fact, meron tayong parallel coordination na ginawa ng CIDG, ginagawa ng CIDG sa DOJ din. So that we'll also know kung sino-sino yung mga bibigyan natin din ng priority dito. No? At kung meron bang mga talagang kailangan tayong sundin ng procedure coming from the Department of Justice.
General Albayalde also warns if the convicts fail to surrender properly, they will do what's necessary. They will also implement warrantless arrest.
Kung yan ay nanlaban or lalaban sa ating mga arresting officers, baka magkaroon ng disgrasya.
The PNP also calls on the public to report any information on any released convicts through their hotline 0917-847-5757. Leah Ilagan, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The condition of prisons in the country has been a hot topic recently. Many are concerned more on the situation of prisoners. Did you know that persons deprived of liberty also have rights, but equally there are limits as to what they can do while inside jail? Find out what those are as Monokson reports.
According to the Philippine Constitution, the state values the dignity of every human person and guarantees full respect for human rights. As an individual, every person has the right even inside the prison, whatever gender and belief. An inmate has the right to be free from personal abuse and has the right to basic necessities inside the penitentiary, such as food and sanitation. Detainees have the right to good conduct time allowance, through which an inmate can be granted liberty based on their behavior. An inmate also has the right to medicine and health services, rehabilitation programs, visitation, and free legal service. A detainee has the right to practice their religious belief, wear anything they want, receive letters, books, magazines, or any reading materials, the right to style his or her own hair, and the privilege to receive food. On the other hand, there are limits to what PDLs can do. Inside the penitentiary premises, their rights are controlled and limited. There are things they are not allowed to do, such as the use of a mobile phone. There are areas where inmates cannot go to, and being late during head count is prohibited. Any prisoner will do anything to attain liberty. As for people who can live freely, it is important to value your freedom, live nobly, and always obey the law. Mon Hokson, UNTV News and Rescue.
President Rodrigo Duterte defends presidential spokesperson Salvador Panelo on his referral of the request for pardon from the family of ex-Mayor Antonio Sanchez. Secretary Panelo thanks the president for it. Rosalie Cos explains why.
President Rodrigo Duterte doesn't see anything wrong with what Secretary Panelo did when he sent a referral letter to the Board of Pardons and Parole in connection with the Sanchez family's request.
Why is there a conflict of interest when he is not called upon to decide? Eh, kung sabi naghingi lang tulong, kasi abogado sa noon, ano bang masama niyan? Ngayon kung sabihin mo, sige, lakarin natin ito, meron kay pera, marami pang naiwan sa waiting ninyo. But Panelo is not that kind of guy. Kaya sabi ko, I can vouch for his character. I will have to stand by him because it is really the truth and he did what was or what is right.
Secretary Panelo meanwhile reveals he has also met the Ampatuan family in Malacañang recently. The Ampatuans are also his former clients. The family was referred to his office by the Office of the President.
Ang kaso naman ng Ampatuan, I think one of the Ampatuans is at large. At large. And the wife and the mother-in-law ba? Is that the mother-in-law? Tama. The mother of that Ampatuan is at large, no? Yung mga kapatid niya na trial eh. Pero siya at large. And they're claiming that innocent sila. O sabi ko, ba't di sumurende? Siyempre, idol sumurende kasi pareho ng mga kapatid nakakulong hanggang ngayon, di pa tapos ng trial. So they're asking the intercession of the President.
The Ampatuan family are the primary suspects in the Maguindanao massacre that happened almost 10 years ago. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacañang.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up to where Angelo Castro III left off. I'm Alex Baltazar, and here are the headlines. The country's inflation further slowed down in August, settling at a 3-year low as the price of rice plummets. The National Food Authority appeals for more funds to comply with President Rodrigo Duterte's order to buy rice from local farmers. PNP Chief Police General Oscar Albayalde admits that the Padrino System still persists in the Philippine National Police. The Department of Transportation again seeks emergency powers for President Duterte to end Metro Manila's traffic crisis. And the NHA Builders return to the UNTV Cup this season with a new team captain. Good evening. Former Bureau of Corrections Chief Nicanor says that after stepping down from his post, he has never been happier. This after President Rodrigo Duterte said he has to go. Let's find out why from Asher Cadapan Jr.
Resigned Bureau of Corrections Chief Nicanor Faldo accepts President Duterte's call for him to leave his post.
Faldo has to go because Faldo disobeyed my order.
In response, Faldo says that as a Marine himself, he will do what his appointing authority tells him to do. In fact, he immediately moved out from his office in the new Bilibid prison in Muntinlupa City on Wednesday. Faldo admits he feels relieved after stepping down.
I've never been happier than now. Relieved. You know, when pag nawalan ka ng yoke sa balikat mo, you can soundly sleep.
Faldo refuses to comment if he still wants to be transferred to another agency. He is replaced by newly retired Army Brigadier General Mildredo Melegrito. Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Muntinlupa City.
Senators questioned the transfer of some convicted Chinese prisoners to the Philippine Marine Compound in Taguig City. The transfer was done through a memorandum order from the Bureau of Corrections. The senators want to know the reason behind the transfer and if it is based on a court order. According to Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, he was informed of the transfer, but he still needs to get information if there was a court order.
It really depends on the specific reasons or justification for the arrangement to be made. As far as I remember, that particular arrangement was done for security reasons because I think these people are witnesses to a certain case.
Inflation in the country continues to slow down according to the Philippine Statistics Authority. The PSA says inflation last month slowed down to over 1%. Harleen Delgado tells us why.
The PSA compared the country's 1.7% inflation rates in August to be slower than the 2.4% recorded in July. This rate is also lower compared with the same month last year, which was 6.4%. According to national statistician Dennis Mapa, this is brought about by cheaper food and non-alcoholic beverages. It also caused by the price drop of fuel and rice, which was the lowest since the rice tarification law took effect this year. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP also attributes the slowdown to price decreases in rice, electricity, and fuel. The BSP adds this is consistent with their outlook that inflation will continue to decelerate until this month and pick up slightly in the last months of 2019. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The National Food Authority welcomes President Duterte's order to buy the harvest of local rice farmers, but the NFA admit they cannot do it alone. Ray Palayo tells us why.
The National Food Authority needs additional fund to procure more palay from local farmers. NFA Administrator Judy Dansal says a 7 billion peso fund has been allotted for them to buy palay, but they need around 13.2 billion pesos to complete the 30-day buffer stock of rice. Dansal adds they will buy even the newly harvested palay for 14 pesos per kilogram. President Rodrigo Duterte's directive amid the lowering farm gate price of rice is to buy all farmers' produce at a reasonable price.
So malugi tayo. Di malugi. Yan man ata. Kaya ako nagkukolekta ng buwis eh.
The annual production of rice in the country is around 380 million sacks, but the NFA can buy only 3% of these. If the total production is bought at 14 pesos per kilogram, the NFA will need 266 billion pesos.
Paghahatian na namin yung production na yan dahil talagang hindi kaya ng puro NFA lang.
30 provinces have responded to the DA's call to buy their constituents' harvests. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Farmers in central Luzon call on the government to suspend the implementation of the rice tariffication law. This report will tell us why.
Farmers in Region 3 are expecting good harvests. The National Irrigation Administration has allocated water to the rice fields in the region this month, with the improvement of the water level in water reservoirs. Despite this, they are facing losses, what with the implementation of the rice tariffication law, which allow for liberal rice importation.
Takot kami, lugi na talaga. Ngayon, pakiusap namin, kung halimbawa napakamura ng palay, yung bigas naman, hindi naman nagbabago presyo. Tapos kami mga magsasaka, malaki yung gastos namin sa bukid. Kapit na lang kami sa patalim.
Kung baga sa law of supply and demand, sa maraming supply kanila. So, tayo mga magsaka, mapipilitan tayo magbenta ng mura.
Meanwhile, the National Irrigation Administration is faced with the issue of the presence of informal settlers near in the irrigation canal.
Dating na po na maintenance period, yung kamukha po naglilinis na kami, hindi na kami makapaglinis kasi meron na silang mga ginawa istruktura.
Nestor Torres, UNTV News and Rescue, Bulacan.
The National Bureau of Investigation, or NBI, has filed human trafficking and kidnapping with serious illegal detention charges against an American woman who was hiding a 6-day-old baby boy inside her bag at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport. The NBI filed the complaints against the woman, identified as Jennifer Erin Talbot, 43, who is now under its custody following her arrest on Wednesday morning. The baby boy was born on August 29 in a hospital in Davao City to a mother who allegedly executed a notarized affidavit of consent and support to the infant's travel to the U.S., but was not signed according to the Bureau. Talbot was presented for inquest proceedings before the Office of the Prosecutor of Pasay City. The parents of the baby, identified as Mary Chris Sempron Dulap and an unnamed father, also face charges for child abuse. Both remain at large. The baby has been placed under the care of the DSWD. The Department of Transportation asks the Congress anew to give emergency powers to the President to fast-track the government's move to resolve traffic problems in the metro. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
Would you agree, Mr. Secretary, that all of these strategies can be implemented without any grant of emergency power to the executive?
Kung without any grant, may implement, pero yung implementasyon mabagal. Baka matapos na yung termino, hindi pa natin na-i-implement.
DOTR Secretary Arthur Tugade defends why they are making the appeal to Congress again. But other lawmakers were not convinced.
In other countries, no emergency power was granted the executive to solve the traffic congestion.
But Tugade replies,
Yung emergency power is not forever. It has a defined time. In fact, sinasabi namin noon at uulitin ko ngayon, yung emergency power noon was between 2 to 3 years. Kung naibigay noon yan, at this moment in time, hindi na pinag-uusapan yan, hinuhusgahan nyo na kami kung nagawa o hindi.
Earlier today, the DOTR presented the 147 billion proposed budget for 2020. The railway sector got the biggest cut of the funds with 106 billion pesos, or equivalent to 98.78% of the entire funds for the agency's projects. The department will also be looking into the airfares that are unstable and drastically rise. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Legazpi Regional Trial Court favored former Daraga Mayor Carwin Faldo's motion to post an 8 million peso bail for his temporary freedom. But the Philippine National Police are confident they filed an airtight case against him. Leia Ilagan explains why.
Police Regional Office 5 Director, Police Brigadier General Arnel Escobar stands firm. They have filed a strong case against the former Daraga Chief Executive, backed with evidence and complete documents.
Napakalakas ng aming ebidensya, but I think it depends on the appreciation naman kasi ng judge. But I heard from the side of the complainants, particularly the family, na I think they are going to raise that issue up to the Supreme Court regarding that decision of the trial judge.
The prosecution had filed a motion for reconsideration to hinder the temporary freedom of the former mayor.
Na-hold muna yung wala pang order na i-issue. Supposed to be magkakaroon sila ng hearing tomorrow, but then I think the judge is not available, kaya it might be reset on next week, next Friday.
The police official adds Baldo remains in jail after posting bail yesterday. Escobar assures the police will monitor Baldo's activities as soon as he gets out of jail. Baldo is the prime suspect in the killing of Ako Bicol Party List Representative Rodel Batucabe and his security escort in December last year. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The Philippine National Police admits that the Padrino System among their ranks still exists. April Sinadoza details why.
The Padrino System is the use of influential connections to get a job or position or get a favor. The PNP chief admits this thing is still going on in the organization, though the rate has been lower.
Very minimal, mangilan na lang yan, pero meron pa rin talang mga pulis tayo na until now they're exercising yung tinatawag nating political patronage, no? Yun ang tinatanggal natin because we want to professionalize the police service.
This comes following the PNP IMEG's arrest of Patrolman Leo Dino Valdez, who was caught selling and using shabu in Barangay Putatan, Muntinlupa City. General Albayalde expressed doubt when Valdez had gone AWOL in 2014 due to his alleged involvement in drug use, but came back to service in 2017. The PNP will be compelled to file administrative cases against active cops who continue to engage themselves in the Padrino System.
Kung ma-find out naman natin na talagang lumapit sila kung kani-kanino, especially so sa mga influential na politicians, then we are compelled to file administrative charges against them.
April Senedoza, UNTV News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The NHA builders gear up for the UNTV Cup Season 8 that opens Monday, September 9. A new team captain, a new point guard. What else have they got? Bernard Dadis has the news.
After failing to reach the finals of the league last season, the NHA builders are now coming back with a more congealed team. They finished in third place in Season 7 of the league. Team captain John Derek Dizon says it was a challenge last season when they lacked camaraderie among themselves.
Nagkatalo-talo kami sa dugout pagka may mga error, di kami nagkakasundo-sundo. Pero ngayon, okay na, na-develop na namin yung family namin.
Now they will come back stronger and quicker with improved run and gun plays.
Yung drills namin para sa cardio, speed, yon para footwork. Kasi dati wala kaming footwork, ang laki ng mga tiyan namin. Wala kami sa condition gaano, kaya medyo kinakapos kami sa uli. Mabilis kami mapagod.
The new builders point guard vows to be an asset to the team.
Gagalingan namin para sa mga beneficiary namin.
The NHA team says they have in store more competitive games for their fans and their beneficiaries.
Sa mga fans natin nanonood, talaga nagpiprepare kami ngayon na isa rin kayo, bukod sa beneficiary namin, isa rin kayo sa mga inspirasyon namin para maglaro ng maganda, para may mapanood kayong magandang laro.
Bernard Dadis, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
And to complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The Commission on Elections will soon announce when their satellite registration booths in malls will open. Comelec and Robinson's Mall signed a memorandum of agreement this afternoon. Aiko Miguel tells us why.
52 Robinson's malls will be the venue for the poll body satellite registration booths. Registration can be done from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Anong impact ng mall registration? We think tataas yan by at least 50%.
President Rodrigo Duterte wants the May 2020 Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan elections postponed to May 2022, although for now there is no law that postpones the polls. COMELEC for their part continue to prepare for the elections.
Kung hindi siya matutuloy, most likely magpaparegister pa kami ulit. Kung matutuloy, hanggang September 30 lang kami. Because aayusin mo pa yung listahan ng mga botante, yung clustering ng precincts.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Google and its YouTube video service will pay $170 million to settle allegations that it broke federal law by collecting personal information about children. Kath Dumaraos reports.
YouTube had been accused of tracking viewers of children's channels using cookies without parental consent and using those cookies to deliver millions of dollars in targeted advertisements to those viewers.
Our complaint alleges numerous instances in which YouTube and Google had actual knowledge of the child-directed nature of channels and videos on the YouTube platform. This is the basis for the FTC to find that Google and YouTube violated COPPA.
The Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, or COPPA, is a law created to protect the privacy of children under 13. The act was passed by the U.S. Congress in 1998 and took effect in April 2000. The law was revised in 2013 to include cookies used to track a person's internet viewing habits.
The $170 million judgment is 30 times larger than the largest COPPA civil penalty the FTC has ever previously obtained. It is 3 times larger than any privacy penalty assessed against Google anywhere else in the world. And it is 10 times larger than the civil penalties we have obtained in all of our 31 prior COPPA cases combined. A penalty of this magnitude sends a strong signal about the importance of children's privacy.
YouTube said in a statement on Wednesday that in 4 months it would begin treating all data collected from people watching children's content as if it came from a child. In late August, YouTube announced it would launch YouTube Kids with separate niches for children depending on their ages and designed to exclude disturbing videos. It has no behavioral advertising. YouTube allows companies to create channels which include advertisements that create revenue for both the company and YouTube. In its complaint, the government said that YouTube touted its popularity with children in marketing itself to companies like Mattel and Hasbro. New York Attorney General Letitia James said the companies abused their power. In addition to the monetary fine, the proposed settlement requires the company to refrain from violating the law in the future and to notify channel owners about their obligations to get consent from parents before collecting information on children. Kat Dumaraos, UNTV News and Rescue.
And for the news abroad, here's Kath Dumaraos reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. Kath, good evening.
Good evening, William. At least 34 people were injured, one critically on Thursday, when an express train and truck collided in Yokohama, Japan, setting the truck on fire and derailing nearly half the train. The accident on the rail link to the capital, Tokyo, smashed the glass in the driver's compartment and derailed at least the first 3 carriages on the 8-carriage train. The accident, which halted trains stopped on the commuter link run by Keikyu Corporation, took place near a station used by more than 19,000 people every day. Hong Kong's pro-democracy lawmakers have said that Chief Executive Carrie Lam's withdrawal of the controversial extradition bill is too little too late, with some protesters urging more demonstrations in the coming days. Ferdy Batalio details why.
For more than 2 months, Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam on Wednesday withdrew an extradition bill that triggered months of often violent protest, prompting resolve from activists to keep them up. The withdrawal, a key demand of protesters, came after unrest that drove the former British colony to the edge of anarchy as the government repeatedly refused to back down, igniting pitched battles across the city of 7 million, the arrest of more than 1,000 protesters, and leaving a society deeply divided. The bill would have allowed extraditions to mainland China, where courts are controlled by the Communist Party.
First, the government will formally withdraw the bill in order to fully allay public concerns.
Hong Kong lawmakers reacted to the city's embattled leader announcement, saying the move should have come earlier, while others said Lam's announcement was not a compromise for those promoting violence, but a bid to win over moderates in the protest camp.
The Carrie Lam concession, so-called concession, has come too little too late. The damage is done. The scars and wounds are still bleeding in Hong Kong. She thinks that she can use some garden hose to put out a hill fire. That's not going to be acceptable.
Joshua Wong, a leader of the 2014 pro-democracy protest, said that protest will continue until free elections are granted to Hong Kong's people. He and other activists are traveling to drum up support for their cause within the international community.
Our protest must continue at least until 1st of October, the China's National Day. We're strongly aware the tactics behind Beijing government.
Meanwhile, Lam has said the Chinese government understands, respects, and supports the withdrawal of the city's controversial extradition bill. Ferdy Petalio, UNTV News and Rescue, Hong Kong.
Hurricane Dorian is gradually leaving Florida behind, setting its sights on the coasts of Georgia and the Carolinas. These areas face a triple threat of destructive winds, flooding rains, and life-threatening storm surges, according to the National Hurricane Center. Kat Carriedo explains why.
After rampaging through the Caribbean as one of the most powerful hurricanes ever recorded, Dorian turned and swipes Florida as a Category 2 storm. Residents of coastal Florida, Georgia, North and South Carolina were bracing for Dorian's approach on Wednesday, with the National Hurricane Center warning that a slow-moving storm could make landfall in South or North Carolina Thursday or Friday. Dorian packed sustained winds of 105 miles per hour and was moving at 8 miles per hour as it turned about 130 miles southeast of Jacksonville, Florida. U.S. President Donald Trump said, "We got lucky before showing the initial projected path of Hurricane Dorian going through the state of Florida and into parts of Alabama."
It was going to hit not only Florida but Georgia. Could have was going toward the Gulf. That was what was originally projected, and it took a right turn. And ultimately, hopefully, we're going to be lucky. It depends on what happens with South Carolina and North Carolina, but it's heading up the coast, and Florida was grazed.
Dorian rampaged through the Caribbean as one of the most powerful hurricanes ever recorded, but then traveled north close to Florida's eastern coastline. Dorian was about 150 miles or 240 kilometers south of Charleston at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, packing winds of 110 miles per hour, making it a Category 2 storm on the 5-step Saffir-Simpson intensity scale. The Miami-based National Hurricane Center, or NHC, said in its 5 p.m. advisory, South Carolina was preparing for a record storm surge and major flooding with a potential for over a foot of rain in places when Dorian hits the coast on Thursday or Friday. Kat Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue, Chicago, USA.
As British lawmakers kicked off another day of turbulent Brexit battles on Wednesday, some Britons say they have just had enough. Jovic Bermas tells us why.
As the 3-year Brexit crisis approaches a crescendo, the United Kingdom is edging towards an election as most British politicians see no other way to break the impasse. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson demanded an October 15th snap election after lawmakers seeking to prevent a no-deal Brexit dealt him a humiliating defeat in Parliament, which he cast as an attempt to surrender to the European Union. But Agnieszka, a dual Polish and British national who would like the UK to remain in the EU, said she just wants to switch her phone off to avoid hearing about Brexit.
Feeling confused, trying to avoid it. It keeps popping out on my phone. I'm really bored with it. I kind of want it sorted.
Another resident says they are getting sick of Brexit.
Yeah, I think everyone's got Brexit fatigue, right? Like it's day in, day out, the same thing. It's a merry-go-round of opinions the whole time, and it doesn't seem like anyone's getting anywhere.
An alliance of opposition lawmakers backed by 21 rebels from Johnson's Conservative Party defeated the government on Tuesday on a motion allowing them to try to pass a law which would force a 3-month extension to Britain's EU exit date. The showdown between Prime Minister and Parliament continues on Wednesday, including a vote on the attempt to block no deal. The government has said a bill to stop a no-deal Brexit will complete its passage through the Lords on Friday. With the Brexit deadline of October 31st fast approaching, London resident Emma Norton thinks it is important now more than ever to stay tuned into the country's long-winding Brexit developments.
I think it's we've got a responsibility to make sure that we understand what's going on and following it really closely. And I think part of the reason we've got ourselves into this mess is because there's been a public disengagement in politics, and now that's really coming back to bite us.
Jovic Burmas, UNTV News and Rescue, London, United Kingdom.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, William.
Thank you very much, Kath de Maraos, reporting live from Bangkok, Thailand. A rooster named Maurice, whose early morning crowing got under the skin of his neighbors, has become the focus of a court battle in France. The cockerel has been accused of causing noise pollution by a retired couple with a holiday home on the picturesque French island of Oleron. Nina Armilio has the details.
A French court ruled on Thursday that a rooster called Maurice could continue his dawn crowing, despite complaints from neighbors in a case the French media has cast as a battle between the old rural way of life and modern values creeping in from the city. One of Maurice's owners, Carwin Faldo, said the court in Roquefort, Western France, rejected a demand from the neighbors that Maurice be silenced. Maurice, a 4-year-old rooster, lives on a small island off France's Atlantic coast. His crowing irritated a neighbor, Jean-Louis Riron, who is from the city and bought the second home next door to Maurice's owners. Riron brought the case to court.
All our elected officials back me and agree with me. There's a very big problem. People have to understand that in the city, they are used to noise. But in the countryside, we find other noises that have always been there and that are normal.
Maurice's case underscores decades-long tensions in France around city dwellers who buy summer homes in the countryside without being ready to cope with the realities of rural life, such as animal noise, odors, or insects. Similar court cases against cows and church bells have been filed in France, but none with the same motive impact as Maurice the Rooster, who has elicited letters of support from as far away as the United States. Maurice has raised a broad move of sympathy and support from all over France and beyond. A local businessman even sells t-shirts supporting Maurice. Nina Armilio, UNTV News and Rescue.
Authorities have filled in potholes in a road in the southern Indian city of Bangalore a day after an artist used them to recreate a moon exploration. This report will tell us why.
Upon taking a small step onto the surface of the moon in 1969, Neil Armstrong uttered what would become one of history's most famous one-liner.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
The saying goes to an artist in the southern Indian city of Bangalore. Bengaluru-based street artist Badal Nanjundaswamy had posted a video on Twitter on Monday. In the video, he is seen wearing a spacesuit and imitating astronauts taking steps on the moon's surface. The camera then pans to show the pothole-filled Tunganagar Main Road in North Bengaluru. The video, in which he also tagged civic authorities, has been viewed over 1 million times on Twitter. Thousands of Indians are injured every year in accidents caused by potholes. After the overwhelming public and media response to the video, Bengaluru civic authorities filled the potholes on the road seen in Nanjundaswamy's video. He thanked them on Twitter for their prompt response. Nanjundaswamy has gained a reputation for using his art to highlight civic issues, and potholes in particular. This isn't the first time Nanjundaswamy's art has made national and international headlines. In 2015, he filled a pothole with a life-size crocodile, turning the 12-feet waterlogged hole into a mock pond, which immediately caught the attention of the authorities. The project cost him about 6,000 rupees. According to Nanjundaswamy's friend, it is his way of giving something back to society. Mirasol Abogadil, UNTV, News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news is September 5, 2019. On behalf of Alex Baltazar and Angelo Castro III, I am William Theo, and before we close, we will recap with today's significant soundbites. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.
The government is doing something to protect the threat against society with respect to these convicts who have been incarcerated by reason of their crimes deemed to be heinous. In other words, they become potential threats.
I would advise na sumuko ka kasi para you're not in danger, di ba? And you show na good conduct ka, consistent with good conduct.
Why is there a conflict of interest when he is not called upon to decide? Eh, kung sabi naghingi lang tulong kasi abogado siya noon, ano bang masama niyan?
I've never been happier than now. Relieved. You know, when pag nawalan ka ng yoke sa balikat mo, you can soundly sleep.
Kung without any grant, may implement, pero yung implementasyon mabagal. Baka matapos na po yung termino, hindi pa natin na i-implement.